Welcome to my channel. My name is Matthias. Today, we're back with Richard Haass's book, World in Disarray, and we're going to talk about the Cold War, the world order of that particular time, where we have the U.S. pitted against the USSR. And it's pretty interesting because Richard Haass actually takes a pretty partial position, affirming that the USSR was the principal antagonist during the Cold War, and they're the ones responsible for the escalation during that whole time of history. But later, the author affirms that both superpowers had divergent interests and they sort of overlapped in certain key areas and had very different worldviews, that their confrontation was going to be inevitable. And Richard Haass mentions that it's pretty remarkable that the Cold War stayed cold, that there was a very high degree of responsibility and restraint between both superpowers. And this not only was impressive, but also somewhat of an anomaly within the world of international relations. It's really fascinating, at least for me, when I sat down to reread this particular chapter, to see the world that they built back then and the impact that it had and still has up until today. It's just mind-blowing. So Richard Haass first starts talking about the balance of military power. So on the United States side, we have the NATO alliance. On the USSR side, we have the Warsaw Pact. That I should do a deep dive for each one of these military alliances. Another key aspect of the post-war with the United States is the Marshall Plan that sought to strengthen militarily, economically, politically, or all three at the same time, the allies of the United States or the states that they wanted to bring under the orbit of the United States. Haass does put a certain amount of emphasis on the idea that the United States did not care what happened domestically in these countries as long as they were anti-communist, they were allies, they were friends to the United States. And so this led to the United States giving aid and military help to a lot of sketchy governments. So what we see during this time is this balance of power between both of these superpowers. They're pretty much deadlocked. They can't go into open conflict with each other, and they test each other during the whole time of the Cold War. First, we had the airlift over the city of Berlin when Russia blocked the access to the city from 1948 to 1949. Then in 1950, we have the Korean War, where the U.S. was actually able to intervene under the auspices of the United Nations. Then after that, we have Vietnam. But the idea is we had a series of conflicts where the two superpowers by no means would confront each other directly, but they would test each other out, and they were willing to intervene because they had to maintain this balance of power. Haass only uses these three examples to talk about these conflicts that we had between the United States and the Soviet Union, where they confronted each other indirectly. But at least to me, there's many more instances where this happened during the Cold War.